When you hear the phrase functional training, you probably think of those crazy exercises where someone is balancing on a Bosu ball with a band around their inner thighs and two different dumbbells moving around in space. When I think of the word functional, I think of movement with purpose. Now, this is the first of a 3-part series where I'm going to break down functional training for the core, lower, and upper body. But since we all have different goals, what's functional or purposeful is going to look a little bit different on everybody. So today, we're just going to simply stick to the basics. Specifically in this video, we're looking at the core. We're going to go through the main functions and how to train your core to help support your daily life. But before we jump into the bulk of it, if you have not hit that subscribe button yet, I would love for you to do so I can continue to make free educational content to give you more power over your workouts and your body. But let's jump into the main functions of the core. So when I think of the core, I think of the spine because specifically your core is meant to protect and stabilize your spine, but it does also help to move it. So with that in mind, the core is going to produce and resist movement at the trunk. It's a lot more than just your abs, which is a common misconceptions. If you were to cut off your arms, head, and legs, everything that remains is arguably your core, in my opinion. Now, if we think of the way that the spine can move, we're going to be looking at 5 different functions. We've got flexion, extension, lateral flexion, and then rotation. And with all 5 of those movements, we can also resist them. So technically, our core is going to have 5 different movement functions, or I guess also anti-movement. So with all of that in mind, let's take a look at a few of my favorite ways to train all of these movement patterns to help keep your core functional and strong. So let's look at flexion and resisting flexion first, or bending forward and then resisting that bend forward. We're going to start with a Jefferson curl, which is a little bit more advanced, but we're going to do this completely body weight to start. So bringing the feet right underneath the hips, I want you to bring your hands on the front of the thighs. From here, we're going to try and go down 1 vertebrae at a time, peeling down the spine. So we're making our body into a nice little forward fold. What we want to resist as we get toward the hips is just jutting the butt out. So you want to keep that guy tucked in as long as you can. Some of this is also going to rely on your own hamstring flexibility, so you might not be able to get all the way down here. And then take a big inhale. On your exhale, using those abs to support your core and your spine, we're going to roll 1 vertebrae at a time all the way back up. Again, trying not to get the hips involved as much as possible. So again, that's option number 1. This is a little bit more of a beginner option. If you want to progress this, you can always do this holding onto a weight. I would start a little lighter, going heavier as needed. And then you can always make this a deficit where you're standing on top of a bench or a small step. So then moving into anti-flexion or resisting that rounding forward, I think one of the best examples is actually a deadlift. So with a deadlift, we actually don't necessarily need to be programming anti-flexion core exercises as standalone drills. Honestly, what I typically do with people is zoom out, look at their entire program, identify all of the different ways that their core is moving or resisting weight, and then fill in the blanks from there. I know there's a big discussion online of like, do I need to separately train my core from my compound lifts? And I think it really honestly depends on the person, what their goals are, and then again, just zooming out, looking at your whole program, filling in those blanks as needed. All right, now we're gonna move into extension and anti-extension. Let's actually move through the extension portion first. We're gonna do some Supermans. So, setting this guy up, we're coming all the way down onto the stomach, face is down, arms above the head. I like to start people with just the upper body, so we're gonna take a big inhale. On the exhale, we lift and we lower. As we lift, I'm thinking of pressing my pubic bones down into the ground. Feet are pushing down as well. And we want to keep the focus down because it's not about neck flexion. It's going to be about that mid-back moving. To progress this, you can get the legs involved. So again, we inhale, exhale, we lift, and lower. Exhale, lift, and lower. We can even add a little pull in there with the arms if we want to make it a little bit spicier. So for a drill like this, I'm not necessarily going to program it like in the bulk of the workout. This is typically going to be something that I program in the movement prep. So this is going to have really good crossover to actually training spinal extension, but also if you're doing something that requires the back that day, a lat pull down, a bent over row. This is also a really great way just to get the back muscles fired. So you're kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. So now moving into anti-extension, the easiest way to do this since we're down on the floor is a forearm plank or a plank of choice. So to set this guy up, we want arms parallel. Legs are going to be squeezing together, and we tuck the hips under, focus right in between those hands. So again, what we're resisting here is letting the spine extend. We're trying to keep that neutral spine, keeping the core engaged. There's a lot of different ways you can progress this, obviously. We can add different movement patterns inside the forearm plank. If that's a little more challenging for you, you can also bring it back up to the high plank. And if you need to, you can always elevate the hands on a surface. So now we're going to move into lateral movement, or resisting that movement. I know that we can move in flexion and extension laterally through the spine, but I just kind of like to group it all in one to keep it less complicated. So let's look at lateral movement first. We're going to do a little side plank dip. This is a little bit more of an advanced option. I'll show you some regressions in a moment. We're going to start with those legs stacked. We lift the hips up, driving that arm down into the ground. From here, we're going to try and tap the side of our hip bone to the floor, right back up, to the floor, right back up. If this is a little too challenging for you, you can always drop that bottom knee and you can work from here. And if you want to find a nice medium ground, you can always lift that top leg to get a little less support. There are some great ways that you can actually progress this. We can move this up onto a bench so we can elevate the knee and the ankle. We could also elevate just the ankle and really ramp up the intensity here. So now moving into resisting that lateral movement, we're just going to backtrack, do the same thing, and we're going to just hold a side plank. So one of the things that I always get asked about with side planks is, what if I can't get this hand fully down? This is usually due to a lack of external shoulder rotation. So what I'm going to have you do is a nice easy fix in the moment. Take a pad right underneath the arm, and that's just going to bring the floor up to you. Again, ways that we can make this a little more challenging. We can always elevate the ankle and the knee on the chair, or just the ankle for a little added intensity. All right, finally, we're going to work into rotation and anti-rotational patterns. So one of the things that I love is utilizing either a cable or a band. Obviously, I'm at home, so I've got a nice band on here. I've tested this. We're not going to pull the door off the hinges, but this is always a little bit better in gym if you do have access to a cable machine, because then you can really control the resistance. So the first thing we're going to do is create movement with a cable rotation. So I'm going to start with my inside leg up for a half kneeling base. Arms are out in front of me. All we're going to do is rotate across the body and back to the front. Again, across the body and back to the front. The reason that I like this half kneeling base is because we're getting a lot of different things involved here. We get some nice hip extension, we get the glute fired up, and then we're getting that big toe extension in the back. So this is a great base for a lot of people to check a lot of things off of the list. But again, you can always do this standing as needed. So now if we want to resist that rotation, one of my go-tos is a Palloff press. Again, I love the half kneeling position for the same reasons we already talked about. But what we're going to do is take that band or cable. We take a big inhale. On your exhale, we push forward, and you're going to resist letting that band rotate you in toward your mounting place. You can either do this as a strict hold, you can do this with presses, and as always, you can always do this standing if for whatever reason the floor is not accessible to you, or you just want a more stable base to load this up more. So if you have any other questions about what functional core training can actually look like, I would love for you to leave it down in the comments below. I would also love for everyone to say thank you to Kevin, the cameraman, for helping me film this video. Again, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos, and I will see you all in the next one.